November, we basically went from 73 straight to 100, right? Well, 99.8 because it took us a couple of weeks to get to 100. But we basically just ripped through the 80,000s. And I talk about, like, I call it an air pocket. When we look at where all the supply changed hands and transacted, very little supply transacted between 73K and 86. That zone is a bit of a gap. We don't actually know how much demand is down there. Now, for whatever reason, markets like to test these things. So if you've ever done TA, you've probably seen the volume profile where you can kind of see where all the different, where the trade volume has happened at different price levels. There's basically nothing between 73 and 86. So that becomes a bit of a magnet. We want to find, the market may want to find out how much demand have you got. So if we get some kind of downside, that's a zone of interest. Short-term holder cost basis is about 90K at the moment. That's the tipping point. That 90,000 level, that short-term cost base, it's a zone, it's not a perfect price, but the idea is that once you get down to that level, all the guys who bought recently are suddenly either at their cost basis or underwater, starting to feel a little bit of stress. The further you go below that, the more they start to look at their portfolio and go, oh man, I bought all those coins at 106 and 108. Now I'm feeling pretty shitty about it. They're the kind of people who start to capitulate out, and you can kind of generate this cascade. So that's an area of interest. It's kind of interesting that we've got this support level, which should hold at around 90K, but below it, there's just not much.
Yeah. So you said 73 to 86, that level?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Could I imagine, and again, thinking in scenarios, could I imagine that we rip to 150 and then we bear market back down to 73? I can absolutely construct a story for how that could play out, right? And suddenly we're not talking about an 80% correction, but we're talking about a pretty decent pullback, about a 50% or thereabouts. I can see that happening. I'm not saying that will happen, but I can definitely see that as a potential scenario if, let's say, these tariffs go really pear-shaped and suddenly we get a bit of a breakdown of, you know, how these countries are communicating with each other. I don't think that's my base case. What's my base case is we probably get above 120. I don't think we clear 150. My base case is that we actually lose sight of what a bear market is. Let's say we go to 150 and we pull back to 90 or 80. What is that? Is that a bear market? What if it takes 9 months or 12 months to resolve? Are we still in a super cycle if we then go to 300? Is that all part of one cycle, or do we just have a bear, right? And I think people are going to start losing track of what is a cycle, because if there's ever a time for it to break, it's probably now.
Just a cycle theory in general.
I actually didn't think we would get down there last cycle, but it required Luna plus 3 arrows plus the GBTC unwind plus FTX. That's the kind of damage that it took to get us down to that level. Unless we get something similar, I'm struggling to see that we're going to get down that far.